doi di doi fek doi di doi fek pisrili koil doi di doi fek doi di doi fek pisrili achoi sirayosi yoy nosi tamosi pisili achoi sirayosi yoy nosi tamosi
welcome Chayom around Baltimore to the Yud Test.
Welcome to the Yud Tes Kislev Chag HaGeula Farbrengen. Every year we sit in one big room and we all farbring together. This year we're going to each be in our own classroom, but we're still going to all join together. Different classes are going to say psukim, presentations, and we're going to hear from and see all of you together today. We're going to start with a warm welcome from Rabbi Cohen.
A good Yom Tov, Cheder, Chabad of Baltimore. Ala Shona Teva, Tikasevo v'Seichosemo, Belimud HaChasidus, V'Darkei HaChasidus. What a special occasion today, a good Yom Tov, for all of us, not just celebrating here at Cheder, but for the children around the world, for Hasidim everywhere, that are celebrating this very auspicious day, Yud Tes Kislev, the Chag HaGeula of the Alter Rebbe. We have gathered together here at a rally in order to celebrate this special day. This is the day that is being given to us, our koyach, our chayas, our life, in order to be able to do the finishing job of this golus, which is to do what? To bring the geula down into this world.
For the first two psukim of Torah and Shema, we're going to start with Kindergarten. Kindergarten, let's hear you, Torah. For the third pasuk of Bechal, we are going to go to Kitah Beis in their classroom with their Rebbe. Kitah Beis, Bechal. For the fourth pasuk of Kol Yisrael, we're going to go to Kitah Dalid in their classroom with their Rebbe. Kitah Dalid, Kol. For the fifth pasuk of Ki, we are going to go to Kitah Aleph. Kitah Aleph with your Rebbe, the pasuk of Ki. For the sixth pasuk of Vehine, we're going to go to Kitah Gimel, half of Kitah Gimel. Kitah Gimel, pasuk of Vehine. Mirza Hashem, in a few weeks, Kitah Aleph will be having your Chumash party. You will be receiving your first Chumash. We're going to start the seventh pasuk of Bereshis, which begins the beginning of Bereshis, which Kitah Aleph started to learn. Kitah Aleph, let's hear you with your Rebbe from your classroom, pasuk of Bereshis.
And now we take a short break from the Sukkah and watch a short video of the Rebbe. Shh! Listen quietly and attentively to every word that the Rebbe says.
Was all der sehr gewinn nicht kommen, der Ufte von dem alten Rebben, Afal Pi, was man so gelernt, meisse Merkovo, Kolas Mann im Kulam. Danach ist zugekommen, bis man war Hiesal ist geworden, der Mitzvah legale Seisachachma. Afal Pi keine, das noch nicht angekommen in Chutza. wo da sich gewend der Uftu und beim Juchat, Lejachre, was schon nicht mehr lebe, Jutes Kislev, als Rose, die Rose, soll werden bedugma wie Hashem, wie der Shemene gewend bei mir Chanukah, Lehoir al Pesach, Beise mi Bachutz, bin Kolschkin ve Kalvachemer, als Meir, bin Bayis Gufo, und Odose gewend der Rufte von Jutes Kislev, als mod gesagt von Gesellen Chesha Choela, de Sorim und der Amim, she bim Diner von dem Zar. Sei Gufo am gegeben der Chufscha, worin von See der Chesha hat geschrien, am muss mit Farsim sein dem Eid von Rose, de Rose. Bis so lang kommen dem Chesha Koffel und Chupel von Ikwisse dem Mishicha, haben sie geschrien, am muss Reislosen und Reislosen Nasami Neffen, also sein Chuf schon nicht mehr lebt. Und Mamschich sein in der Forze von Rose, de Rosin, noch mehr, wie es gewesen bis damals, die de Sicher, was schon gedruckt von dem Rebbe nicht mehr sehen, als in der Gejule von Jutes Kislev, hat sich angeheben der Ike von der Forze Samayonis Chutza. Wir kommen in dem Moschel, in nieder Pirush, aber das nicht mehr nicht etwas Achillik in Chutza, nur wie der Loschen ist, ja Futza, meine Seche Chutza, die Mayonis allein, und nicht wie all der Charogel, von dem Mayon geht es rein in der Nord, und von dem Nord geht es auf Pnei Horetz, mit Merchak von dem Mayon und nicht von dem Nord, nur ja Futza, meine Seche Chutza, a de Mayonis allein bringt man in dem Chutza und dort tut man mit sie lernt sie in a Neifen von ihr Futza.
For the next pasuk, the 8th pasuk of Vishlinantam, we're going to go back to Kitah Beis in your classroom with your Rebbe. Kitah Beis, Vishlinantam.
Vishlinantam, Levonecha, Vedibarta, Vam, Veshiftecha, Veveisecha, Uvelechtecha, Vaderech, Uveshaftecha, Ufumecha.
For the 9th pasuk of Yagaiti, we are going to go back to Kitah Gimel. Kitah Gimel, pasuk of Yagaiti. For the 10th pasuk of V'ahavta, we're going to go to a few boys from Kitah Vav. Kitah Vav, V'ahavta.
V'ahavta, L'recha, Kamoecha, Rabbi, Akiva, Omer, Zeh, Klal, Gadol, B'Torah.
We are now going to watch a special video presentation of the Alter Rebbe's life.
In the village of Leyadi, on Chai Elul Tov Kuf Hey, the Alter Rebbe was born. Going to find the spring, the white well that the Alter Rebbe dug when he was young. This appears to be the white well. When the Alter Rebbe was 10 years old, his father took him to Lubavitch to learn, where he learned until he was 12. In Tov Kuf Chof, the Alter Rebbe married Rebbe Sterner when he was 15 years old. He lived in the Tepsk, where the wedding took place. Money he received from his wedding, the Alter Rebbe gave it to poor people to buy land and become financially independent. When he was 19 years old, the Alter Rebbe traveled to Mizrich to learn Torah from the Baal Shem Tov's successor, the Mizracha Maggid. After the Mizracha Maggid passed away, the responsibility for Poland, Ukraine, and Russia were divided up amongst the Talmidim of the Mizracha Maggid. Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk was responsible for Ukraine and Lithuania. When the battle with the Misnagim intensified, Rabbi Menachem Mendel left for Eretz Yisrael. The Alter Rebbe also joined the trip to Eretz Yisrael. When he reached Mogilev, he was convinced to remain in Russia. The Alter Rebbe became the leader of Hasidim in Russia and soon had tens of thousands of followers. The Alter Rebbe wrote down the foundations of Hasidus Chabad in the Tanya. In Tov Kuf Nun Zayin, it was printed for the first time. Since then, due to the campaign of the Rebbe, the Tanya has been printed over 5,000 times all around the world.
The Tanya only increases the Hisnagdas. Finally, in the year Tov Kuf Nun Tes, the Misnagdim master on the Alter Rebbe to the government, accusing him of treason for sending money to Israel. And the Alter Rebbe is arrested on Isru Chag, Sukkah. This is an actual cell in the Peterpool prison. The Alter Rebbe had many visitors in prison, very important ones as well as ministers, until the Tsar himself came. The most important visit, though, was by the Baal Shem Tov and the Mizracha Maggid. The Alter Rebbe turns to them and says, "Why am I here?" And they answer, "There is a tremendous decree l'mayla, due to the fact that you're spreading Chassidus so rapidly." The Alter Rebbe asks, "Should I stop?" Upon which they respond, "No, now that you have started, continue, and you will be successful." The high status of the important prisoner is recognized by the Russian government. They install a special wax statue of the Alter Rebbe that you can see till today in the museum at the prison. Finally, on Yuta's Kislev, the Alter Rebbe is released, but the Misnagdim do not relent, and once again, tell to the government on the Alter Rebbe that the Alter Rebbe is starting a revolution. Once again, the Alter Rebbe is arrested on Isru Chag Sukkos. The Alter Rebbe is brought to the headquarters of the secret police for a long and rough interrogation, accusing the Alter Rebbe of many things against the government. Once again, after a long and harsh interrogation, the Alter Rebbe emerges victorious on the second night of Hanukkah. The Hasidim are overjoyed, but there's one problem. The government will not let the Alter Rebbe go back to Liazna. The Alter Rebbe must stay in Petersburg, still under the watch of the government. However, during the Alter Rebbe's arrest, a very important duke, known as Duke Lubomirsky, meets the Alter Rebbe and is very impressed. When he finds out that the Alter Rebbe must stay in Petersburg, he offers the Alter Rebbe to come under one of his cities, gives him a choice of Dubrovna or Liadi. Although Dubrovna had many Hasidim, the Alter Rebbe chooses Liadi to now become the center of Chassidus Chabad. After all the hard times, Liadi now springs into a whole new center of Chassidus, where Chassidus flourishes, with many, many more Hasidim joining. After 11 glorious years known as After Petersburg, news of Napoleon entering Russia is widespread. The Alter Rebbe saw Napoleon as a direct threat to the spiritual well-being of all the Jews of Russia. The Alter Rebbe, in fact, even referred to Napoleon as the Satan, making believe he's here for the well-being of the Jewish people. He wanted to destroy anything that had to do with Hashem. The Alter Rebbe encourages the Chassidim to help the Tsar and his army in any way possible. As Napoleon continues his advance into Russia closer and closer to the Alter Rebbe finds the need to flee Liadi, and on Erev Shabbos Mevarchim El Tav Kufayim Beis, the Alter Rebbe leaves, asking that all his belongings should be burnt, not one item left for Napoleon. Napoleon shortly after enters Liadi, quite upset that he had nothing from the Alter Rebbe. With Napoleon and his army on their heels, the Alter Rebbe and his family continue to flee. Despite the freezing winter, the Alter Rebbe continues to travel until it just became impossible. And on Yud Beis Teves Tav Kufayim Gimel, they reach the village of Piena. There the Alter Rebbe falls ill, and a short while later, after 12 days on Chav Dalet Teves, 200 years ago, in Tav Kufayim Gimel, on Motzei Shabbos, the Alter Rebbe is nostalgic. But as the Alter Rebbe prophesied, Napoleon did lose the war, and the Alter Rebbe's son, the Mittler Rebbe, re-establishes Chassidus in Lubavitch. Chassidus flourishes over there for many generations, until finally the Frierdiker Rebbe brought it to the other side of the world, where his son-in-law, our Rebbe, took over, concluding the mission set by Mashiach to the Baal Shem Tov, that he will come when Chassidus is spread all over the world. It is now our mission to continue that, to make sure that there is not one corner in this world that is left without the beautiful Torahs of
For the 11th pasuk of Vizeh, we're going to go to Kitah. Kitah, all of you together. Vizeh. For the last pasuk of Yismach, we're going to go back to Kitah Dalid. Kitah Dalid, Yismach.
We don't run away. I'm your soil, have no fear, Mashiach will be here this year. I'm your soil, have no fear, Mashiach will be here this year. Hey, Mashiach now, hey, Mashiach now, hey, Mashiach now, we don't run away. Hey, Mashiach now, hey, Mashiach now, hey, Mashiach now, we don't run away. Hey,
The Alter Rebbe was on a boat and wanted to say Kiddush Levana. Let's see a special presentation from one of the classes in Cheder.
Oh no.
So does that by itself? Bastard! Is that my problem? Somebody answer me! I don't know! The bomb magically stopped! So? Don't know. It must be the Holy Rabbi! Go. Just do it. He's standing up in prison! For nothing, Lucas! Who's the man who lost a soldier? So get them out on my plane! You missed! He magically climbed up again! It's okay. It's okay. Please stop the book so I can continue saying to this one. Valvino, stop it! Find your neck to look for you! I'll take you out to canteen. No! I need a level picture and count enough! Okay. I want canteen! Please! Stop! Okay, this was Max Mayanki. This was a real story found by archaeologists under the Cheder Chabad tetherball. And this story has been brought to life to you by this guy here. What's your name? I forgot I was drinking last night. Oh, that's okay. What about you? My name is Thank you. I forgot. You also forgot what you forget. You left my mind and confused it. Hey, where'd he go?
Bring in your menorahs. Let's have before Hanukkah all the menorahs together that all of you are bringing, set up by this table here.
This year, every kid in Kitah Gimel made a sukkah. Let's go watch it. Can you guess which sukkahs are kosher and which ones are not?
A sukkah that's higher than 20 hours. The Tanakh says that it is possible, and Rabbi Yehuda says that it's possible.
That's kosher.
Okay, is that if somebody felt it had a little back door and he has nowhere to put the he had nowhere to put the sukkah, so he just sticks it under a tree. It's like he made it like in the house. It's exactly like he made it in the house. So the Baltimore says, "Are you gonna make a sukkah in the house?" No, that means the sukkah's special.
A sukkah that's lower than 10 tvachim, it is puzzle, because you can't live in it.
If the sukkah has less than 3 walls, it's puzzle. A sukkah that is more sunlight than shade is puzzle.
In this case, is someone that uses an old sukkah. So the shower says old sukkah is kasher. Is puzzle, and the shower says old sukkah is kasher. What is an old sukkah? Anything was made 30 days before that, and it didn't have a line, the mitzvah of sukkah, psula, it is kasher. But if you did have a line, the mitzvah of sukkah, even from the beginning of the year, Cheder is kasher. Someone who puts a cloth under a sukkah to stop the falling leaves from falling down on them is possible.
If you want to use a board for a Sukkah that is 2 tvachim, then it is kosher. If you want to use a board that is 3 tvachim, Rebbe said it's kosher, and the mayor said that it's possible. If you want to use a board that is 4 tvachim, then it is possible for the Sukkah. If you want to use all the boards for Schach, Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Shammai says, that you have to take every other board and replace it with kosher Schach. And Hillel says you have a choice. Either you take off every other board and replace it with kosher Schach, or you take them out and loosen it. And Rabbi Meir says that there's really no focus. You just have to take off every other board and replace it with kosher Schach.
Here's a loppy spread on it. Says in a cloth. The because of the sunlight. This Torah is saying that if you have a cloth on top of a sukkah because you don't like the sun, you're not allowed to, because it's possible, because you need to have even sunlight and even shade.
Oh, okay, thank you. Penguins, get to work.
Here we have a guy sleeping in a floor-full bed. And he's puzzled. Why? Because it says Venetia. You don't use a geffen, a grapevine, and you can't use a gourd vine. And this sukkah shows that you can't shows a gourd vine or a grapevine coming up. But then if you put more kosher schach than not kosher schach, it's okay. Or if you snip it If you snip it, it's also okay. Then you have a kosher sukkah. But without it snipped, or not more kosher schach than not kosher schach, besula, it is puzzled.
With 2 poles, one on each side and a beam in the middle, and he covers it with a curtain. Then it's kosher if the beam between the 2 sides is less than 1 tefah. Otherwise, it is kosher. Sukkah on top of a sukkah. The top one is kosher, but the bottom one is puzzle. The Rabbi says if when you stand on the top you fall through to the bottom, then the bottom one is kosher because it's just like a second layer of sukkah.
And now for what you have all been waiting for, the beautiful My Parsha book for all those that completed 10 weeks of missions. Really, really nice. I can't wait till one of my kids get it and I have a chance to read it. I'm going to call the names of all the boys that are getting it this week. If your name is called, you will be, a little while later, I'm going to announce one class at a time to come out. Come to the window of the office and Rabbi Wolansky will be giving out the My Parsha booklets to all the names of the boys that I am going to call. If you feel you should have gotten one and you didn't, then I'm going to have a little card that you could fill out your name. You will hand it, put it to Rabbi Wolansky, and he will look through to see if it's a mistake. The boys that are getting one today. From kindergarten, Fischl Kaufman, Chaim Rabinowitz, Yosef Fitler-Reindorp, Yitzchak Shanowitz, Benjamin Schusterman, Naftali Shalom, Bentzi Slatkin, and Yehuda Sorkin. The boys from Kitah Aleph that are getting it today are Shalom Buket, Kasriel Chazan, Gershom Cohen, Shaya Kaplan, Meyer Kaufman, Levi Lapkovsky, and Mendel Minkowitz, Mendel Reichik, Schneier Raskin, and Sender Kafka. The boys from Kitah Beis that are getting a book today that could come to the office after the rally are going to be Mendel Krinsman, Shaya Light, Shaol Menda, Levi Shapiro, Mordechai Stolik, and Yitzi Tenenbaum. The boys from Kitah Gimel, which could come to the office when the rally is going to be over today, will be Mendel Feldman and Lipa Shapiro. The boys in Kitah Dalid that could come get their book today: Meir Druk, Zalman Gopin, Mendel Apkovsky, Zalmi Light, Faivel Maravi, and Baruch Shimi Menda, and Baruch Slatkin, and Yehuda Wolansky. The boys in Kitah Hey that could come get their book today are Avi Cohen, Mendel Cohen, Mendel Kafka, Meir Simcha Light, Zalman Shanowitz, Yisrael Leib Taplin. The boys in Kitah Vav that come get their book today are Davi Brooker, Shaya Buket, and Yasol Gapin. The boys in Kitah Ches that come get their, Kitah Zayin, Levi Steiner. The boys from Kitah Ches are Shlomo Brooker and Shalom Ber Rifkin. We hope the rest of you will be able to get one soon. After 10 weeks of missions, the next time we will be giving this out is going to be Yud Shvat. So some boys have only a few weeks left. Finish up giving in your missions, and then we will be able to receive your book.
It was the Alter Rebbe when he came out of prison. After the Kitrug, after the Gezeira, the decree that there was in Shamayim, that there is no spreading of Chassidus anymore. When he left prison, after he met with Mashiach, after he went into the chambers of Mashiach, and he said, that the wellsprings of Chassidus is going to be spread everywhere around the world, to the furthest corners of the world. That's when Mashiach is going to come. Until then, the job is still not yet finished. So the Alter Rebbe knew that when he's leaving prison, he's going to have to spread Chassidus even stronger and wider into the world in a much more powerful way. There's a beautiful story of that chassid and the misnagid, I believe, that was walking along the side of the street. And he came across a booklet of Chassidus, a mimer of Chassidus in the gutters on the street. And this created a big problem. Chassidus, so important, so holy, it's so powerful. How could that be in the gutters, along the streets in Russia? This should be sacred, holy, kept on the bookshelves, made sure it's being studied in the Beis HaMedrash, in the schools, in the Chadorim, in classrooms, but not found on a gutter in the street. And when they wanted to explain how we're going to explain this, we had to give a beautiful mashal. And the story goes like this. There was a young prince who had become so ill that he was on his deathbed. His father, the king, had all the money in the world, but his poor child was crying just for another breath, was struggling to breathe just another breath. And the time was slowly getting closer and closer to this poor child. And he didn't know what his child's fate is going to be. One day they hear there is a famous doctor who's passing through the city. And he said, if there's a famous doctor, no one's been able to cure my child, maybe this doctor will be the one. And he calls in the doctor, and the doctor comes rushing to the palace. He never assumed this is what he would be doing that day. And he's taken directed straight into the main chamber, and there he's standing in front of His Majesty the King. And he says to him, my dear doctor, I have a poor son who's so ill. Nobody's able to cure him. Would you be so kind to see if you can treat him? And the doctor goes over to this child, and he sees this little boy lying in a bed, barely any life. And he looks at him, and he says, yes, Your Majesty, I think I know the cure. I can actually revive him today. He says, what is it? I will pay anything to be able to cure my son. He said, but the only person that has this medicine is none other than you, Your Majesty the Queen. He's like looking at this doctor as if he's so strange. I have a medicine? I'm no doctor? What are you referring to? He says, you know that crown jewels that you have? Yes. Do you know the center diamond in that crown jewels that is right in the center of the crown? You're talking about the most expensive jewel in the world, he says. Yes. The priceless jewel that no one could even afford such a piece, even if they had all the money in the world. He says, yes. That is a medication, that is a medicine. He says, absolutely. If you take out that big jewel, that diamond, and you give it to me, and I will crush it till it's crushed into a powder. And with that powder, I will mix it into a little bit of water. If we're able just to get a little bit, just a little drop of that liquid onto your child, the prince's mouth, and he's able just to swallow just one little bit, it will revive him. The king thinks for a second. What is all my kingdom? What is everything that I own, if not for my only child, the prince? Would I not give everything away for him to continue? So the king, without thinking, gives over the crown jewels, the most expensive piece that he ever has, or ever will have, to the doctor. They take out that diamond and they crush it, till eventually it's completely into a powder, and they bring it to the child. Even though that most of the liquid is going to drip down the child's cheek onto the floor, but as long as one little drop enters that child's mouth, that's going to revive him. And so they do it. And the doctor goes, and this unconscious child is lying there, almost lifeless. And he pours this liquid over the child's mouth, just so one little drop should get in. And it gets in, and it revives the child. This was a mashal to Chassidus. Chassidus is the crown jewels, the most expensive part of whatever Hashem has. It's the innermost secret of the Torah, which is Chassidus Kabbalah. And Hashem knew that we're going to be living in a time when the world is going to need that part of Hashem's Torah to help us to get to the finishing touches of Golos. And that is by learning Chassidus. And yes, there might be times that Chassidus might be flowing in the gutters of Russia, or in the gutters of the Ukraine, or in a small city in the Crimea. But as long as just one bit of Chassidus can get into our mouths, into our souls, and into our hearts, that's enough for us to be able to hold on to it and to change the world. So on this day of Yutes Kislev, on such a special yontif of a Chag HaGeula, when the life, the koyach and the chayas is the energy of this day is being poured down to us even more than it was before. It's our job to tap into the Chassidus that we have and to make good resolutions, good hachlotas tovos for the coming year, to take Chassidus and to inspire and uplift every one of us. And try to take more than just one drop. Take 2 drops, 3 drops, hundreds of drops, and try and get ourselves drenched in the words of Chassidus, in the words of Tanya, and everything that we have from all the Rebbeim, in order to uplift, inspire, and transform a world around us on this special day. So we'd like to welcome everybody to this very special Yutes Kislev virtual rally. And hopefully it's not going to be too virtual anymore, because we'll be able to be in Yerushalayim, in the Beis HaMikdash, without a virtual Beis HaMikdash, but a real Beis HaMikdash in real reality very soon. L'chaim, everybody.